Hey, this is Kev with Blender Binge. This video we're going to be making DJ visuals in the style of vector arcade vaporware type stuff. And if you stick around to the end, you're going to be able to do this too. Ready? Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is create the tunnel. So to do that, I'm going to use our default cube and I'm going to stretch them out about 10. So to do that, I'm going to hit N on the keyboard. All right, or hit that little arrow thing, call this out, and I'm just going to go to scale, I'm going to go to Y, and I'm just going to type in 10. Yeah, I know you can like hit X and 10 and all that stuff too. I'm just doing it this way to illustrate. All right, so now what I'll do is I'm going to put this on top of the grid. So to do that, I'm going to go to location, and I'm going to type in 1 on the Z, and that just moves it up and puts it on top of the grid. Cool. Now what I'll do is shape it. So to do that, let me see, I can close this. I can hit N on the keyboard, don't need that anymore. And what I'll do is shape this thing. So to do that, I'm going to hit Tab on the keyboard to go into edit mode. And then I can hit 3 on the keyboard or hit this thing up here, faces. Select this face. And I can hit either G and constrain it, or I can hit Shift and spacebar. Go to the move tool, move it down a little bit, and I can hit shift spacebar again, go to scale and pull it in a little bit. And maybe move it down a little bit again. And that's probably pretty good right there. Now what I'll do is I'm going to get rid of this face and I'm going to get rid of this face. So I hold down shift to select both of them, then I hit delete and I say faces, and now I have a tunnel. So now I'm going to shade the tunnel. So to do that, I'm going to hit tab to go back to object mode. Then I'm going to go down here to this little corner here and I'm going to pull this up. And I don't want to use the shading, the look dev area here. I'm fine just doing it this way. So I'm going to change this to shader editor. And I'm going to build out the shader for this. So to see what we're going to be looking at, I'm going to change it to rendered mode. And now we bounce into Eevee. So you can see I hit this little button here, we're in Eevee. So what I'll do is I'm going to change, we have a principled BSDF shader on here already. So what I'm going to do is swap this out for a mixed shader. So I'm going to select this, then I'm going to hit Shift S on the keyboard for switch type 2 or swap, shader, mix shader. Now I'm going to plug 2 shaders into here. So to do that, I'm going to hit add, or I can hit Shift A on the keyboard. And I'm going to go to shader, and I'll say transparent. I'm going to plug that into the top, and then I'm going to hit Shift A again. I'm going to go to shader, and I'm going to say emission, and I'm going to pull that down and change right there. Plug that in. And we're going to control this. So we're going to have transparent areas and opaque areas. We're going to control that with a brick texture. So I can go to add or hit Shift A on the keyboard, go to texture, brick texture. And I'm going to plug in factor to factor. And now I have a cool kind of brick texture on here that looks kind of cool. So what we're going to do is change it a bit. Now to do that, I'm going to hit the brick texture and I'm going to use Node Wrangler, hit Control T, and that plugs in a mapping and a texture coordinate. And if that's not set up for you, just go to Edit, go to Preferences, go to Add-ons, and type in Node up here, and there it is, Node Wrangler. Turn that on and you're good to go. So now I'm just going to change from generated to object, and that's just going to change the look, tighten it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and play with some settings until I get something that looks kind of interesting. So my offset here, I can change the frequency, I can squash it down, I can pull it up, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and find something that makes me happy. So 5 there, let me see, I'll say scale. If I pull that pull that up. Let me see, I'll say that 10. That's kind of cool. And let's see, mortar size, 0.005. That thins it out. And maybe, let's see, brick width, I'll take down a little bit. And let's see, row height, I can pull in and just get something that looks kind of interesting. And now you see that I'm not getting kind of the transparency where I want it. So what I have to do is I have to go over to the shader, the material tab, and change blend mode over here if we're using Eevee. Blend mode over here to alpha clip. And now I have nice transparency and opaqueness, opacity. So then that's being controlled here by the transparency, the emission shader. Okay, you can push that up and you see it's really solid now. And that's just being controlled here, this mix shader, so it's transparent and then it's emissive, and that's being controlled by the black versus white of our vector here. So if I say turn that down, actually you can turn this all down, it's fine, but it's just being controlled by the factor of our brick texture. So now I can kind of scrunch these together if I want, or leave it as is. And that should be kind of interesting enough. So what I'll do now is I'm going to take my camera and put them inside it. So to do that, I'm going to hit the camera. On the keyboard, I'm going to hit Alt-G to zero out the location, and then Alt-R to zero out the rotation. And I'll hit this little arrow here again, or hit N on the keyboard. And what I'll do is I'll take the rotation of the X and turn it up 90 degrees. Boom. Okay, so now if I hit 0, you'll see that we're inside the tunnel. So now let me just take this camera and pull them back a bit. So go to Move tool here. Let's see, pull this down again. Go to the Move tool, so move. Location Y, pull them back. And location Z, I could put them up a little bit. So when you're in here, you just find a good kind of spot, and there you go. So that's pretty interesting. So what I'll do now is animate the tunnel. So to do that, I can go up to the top here, and I'll go to top view by hitting this little Z icon here. And I'll go to the very front and see that right here on this line, I have our line here. So what I'm going to do is take a shader, take this shader, and I'm going to control this with the location. And my location on the Y going negative allows me to see like I'm actually moving through the tunnel. So if I'm at 0 right now, you can see that this line is where this line meets up. So at 0, I'm going to go ahead and set it, or at 1, wherever this thing backs out, 1, I'm going to set a keyframe for Y. So I'm going to right click in here and I'm going to say insert single keyframe. And then I'm going to go to 250 out here, and I'm going to find something very similar to this, but not too far out. So let's see, 8, 9, 7, that looks pretty good right there. And then insert single keyframe. So now you see that it'll move and it'll look like it's looping without any break. So you don't see any stutter here, do you? No, there might be a little glitch here, a little stutter. You're not going to see it though. So I mean, if you want to go technically whatever, you can always say there's going to be a glitch there because mathematically it doesn't line up. All that matters is it looks cool and it looks right. So we're not getting any glitch in here. It doesn't look like it's stuttering, so I'm happy with it. Let's go with it. So now if I hit 0 and I play it inside here, you see that we are moving through an endless looping tunnel. So that's pretty cool. Check that out. I like that. It's like I can just stare at it for a while. But I'm not going to do that because it'll waste your time. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn off the background here. So let's go ahead and go to the world view. Let's go to color, and I'll just take background to black. And now what we can do is give our emission a color. So I'll give this a, maybe like a cool 80s-ish, orange-ish color. And that's looking pretty cool. So I can also turn on bloom just a little bit, just to make it glow a little bit if I want. A lot of the stuff in the 80s kind of didn't do this, but then when it was on VHS and it got all distorted and kind of bloomed out a little bit, it started looking that way. You can play with this to your heart's content and make it look how you want. So here we go, and it's moving now. That looks cool. I'm gonna go with that. So now let's make our little ship to go in here. So to do that, I'm gonna turn on my background just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And now I'm going to get out of here, and I'll create, so let me go add mesh, and I'll say plane, and I'll pull the plane out, and I'm going to just go ahead and do some quick modeling here. So I'm going to hit tab, I'm going to hit Control R to go into loop cut mode, and then I'm going to use my mouse wheel to scroll up once. And there I have something that looks kind of interesting. So I'm going to hit my mouse button once and twice, and it takes. Now I'm going to go make sure I'm on, you hit number 2 on the keyboard or go to edge mode. I'm going to hit E on the keyboard once. That extrudes. Okay, and I'm going to pull that out. And I think what I'm going to do here then is I'm going to take faces, this face and this face. I'm going to hit E on the keyboard, click the mouse, goes into move, pull this guy up a little bit. I can go shift spacebar, I'll go to scale, pull him in, and maybe I'll go back to edges, take him, scale these guys out a little bit, take this guy and take this guy. Okay, shift spacebar, go to the move tool and pull that down a little bit. Shift spacebar, scale, maybe pull those out, and that's looking pretty cool right there. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. And then what I'll do, I think too, just to add a little bit cooler effect, is I'm gonna hit Control R, put a cut there, Control R, double click, put a cut there. Hit tab, go back out, and now I'm going to put a wireframe modifier on here to match and visually kind of match the look of this. So to do that, I'm just going to go to modifiers, add modifier, and I'm going to go to wireframe. There we go. And then that's really thick. I don't need it to be that thick, so 0.005 is probably pretty good. And now I have a wireframe, ship, and a tunnel. So now all I have to do is give this guy a shader. So I'll select him, I'll hit new. This is principled, I don't need this. What I do need is this to be emission. So I can click on this, I can hit Shift S, that's for switch, swap, whatever you want to call it. Shader, emission, there we go. Give him kind of a saturated blue-purple color. Maybe turn it up a little bit. And now let's go ahead and put him inside. So I can hit Z, and I can move him kind of over toward our camera a bit. All right, I can hit S and scale him down. G, move him around. Now I can hit 0 to go back to the camera view. There he is. He's inside. So now I can use these to position him a little bit further if I can't get the arrows. So that's kind of interesting. And maybe let's make him a little bit thicker. Whoa, that's way too thick. 0.008. That's better. And take the world, bring that back to black, and we're getting somewhere now. So I can, oops, not that. I can move this guy up a bit, just so he reads a little bit better. And now I can animate him kind of moving up and down. So to do that, I'm just going to start him at 1. And what I'll do is I will add a keyframe for him. So let's see, at 0, I'll right click over here and say insert single keyframe. And I'll kind of make him go, he'll be there again at the end. Insert single keyframe. And now over here at like 1, I don't know, somewhere around the middle here. So like 125, I can kind of pull him down a little bit. Right click, insert single keyframe, and now I kind of have him looping a bit. And it's slow and subtle. And if you want, as long as these two match up, you can go in here and add like more stuff, more keyframes. You can turn on auto key here, and just for a little bit, turn that on. Maybe turn it up here. And now he's doing some little more interesting things as it goes. And then make sure you turn this off or you get auto scene destroy, and you don't want that. So there we have some looping. And it'll loop forever. So let's do a test render image, see what it looks like. Kind of interesting. Maybe we could take this down a little bit. So let's pull this shader down, the emission. It doesn't have to be quite so hot. And this guy, we can make him bounce a little bit more off of this. So we can go to like a blue. Turn him up, and there we go. That reads a little bit better. And I can also look at this guy here. Let me see here. I could take these guys in a little bit more, and that might read better. So what I'll do here is just quickly go in, hit tab, hit this guy, scale him in a little bit, hit 0, hit tab, and now it looks more kind of shippish. Shippish, is that even a word? Shippish? Shippish. I'm going to say shippish. I just invented that. Shippish. You're going to see it in a dictionary in like 10 years. So there we go. Shippish. And that's pretty cool. So we can render this and see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and render this and come back and see what it looks like. Okay, so we're back, and here's the animation, and it's looking all right. It's not too bad, but I think we can push it just a little bit further, don't you? I do. So let's change the camera angle a little bit, and we'll do another render and come back and look at its awesomeness. So what I'll do is I'm going to grab my camera, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to say lock camera to view. So now I can kind of move the camera around and find just a cooler angle. Maybe something like that. And that's going to look a little bit more dramatic and cool, and it might read a little bit better. Maybe there. And for those kind of interested in where I got this idea, I saw something from Stu Maschwitz a while ago. He recreated this animation, a kind of an homage to this old vector style, and did a really cool job at it. And it's called Tank, and if I can find the link, I'll put it in the description, and you can go check it out. But he used to run the orphanage up in the Bay Area. He was apparently a pretty cool guy. So anyway, so this is kind of my own version of that, based on that style that he did, which is pretty cool, which is all based on the 80s graphic style of video games that we used to play when they actually did, the few that actually did this style. So actually, one last thing I want to do is take this, and what I want to do is, he's moving very linearly right now, because I have linear set as the default extrapolation. So what I'll do is, really quickly, I'm just going to change this to Graph Editor, and for the animations here, I'm going to hit A to grab all these keyframes. So interpolation mode, and change this to Bezier. So now Bezier, it's more fluid. So let's go ahead and render this and see what it looks like. And we're back. And yeah, this definitely reads quite a bit better. And I think this looks much better, more interesting, more visual appeal. And you can see that, I don't know, you may like it, you might not, but I do. So anyway, alright, so hopefully you got something out of this video. If you did, hit like, subscribe, share it, hit that little bell notification, and I'll keep making more. And if you want, and you start creating your own versions of this stuff, it's totally cool to post in my comment section, and post links to your channel, and I'll totally leave it up. It's cool with me. Sometimes links get caught in the spam filter on YouTube, so if it doesn't show immediately, just give me like a day or two to check it out, and I'll publish it, and then you can share it to the world and pimp out your channel and whatever you want to do. I don't care. And just go have fun and learn and be awesome. See you in the next video.